All right, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, Maximizing Your Impact, the Synergy of Influencing Marketing and PR. Today we have the great Chris Cunningham from ClickUps. Chris, we're really happy to have you on. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
The pleasure is all ours. Just so that for those who don't know, Chris is the head of influencer marketing for ClickUps. We're going to get into that a little bit more. Something that we like to do though is see where everyone's calling in from. I'm currently calling in from Tel Aviv, Israel. Chris, where are you calling in from?
I'm here in London. So I'm here in London in a WeWork right in Buckingham Palace Road.
Awesome. That's so cool. So where's everyone else calling in from? We love to see where people are coming in from. Berlin, amazing. I'm looking for my Hoosiers, of course. I'm from Indianapolis originally, so that's always fun to see. We got Tennessee as well. Amazing. South, Midwest. All right.
I'm from Virginia, so I like that.
Okay. So as we're waiting for more people to roll on in, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a quick little poll here. And the question that we'd love to hear answered is, have you used influencer marketing as part of one of your own PR campaigns? Now, of course, the answers are yes, no, and other. So if you are an other, then please let us know in the comments, what does that mean? We're going to launch the poll really quickly right now and give that a couple of minutes. So Chris, as the head of influencer marketing, have you ever used influencer marketing as part of a PR campaign?
Yes, I have. We've tried it once or twice.
Amazing. It's something that I myself have started to get into as well. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Who is considered an influencer? What does that look like? We're really excited to be able to share that with you all today over the course of this webinar. So we're going to give everyone, a few more minutes to roll in and see what's going on. Now, Chris, you're originally from the States. What brings you out to London today?
Yeah, so I want to meet with potential, new influencers. So I came out here to meet with Ali Abdal, who's really well known in the productivity space. He is here in London. And then while I'm here, I also want to meet with our team. So I'm actually saying bye to Ash right now. He's leaving. So I got to meet with a lot of our team here and hang out. We're also trying to expand what we're doing with PR and social. So, and here in, EMEA. So I had a couple meetings on that. And then I interviewed with a few journalists on, we dropped an album for ClickUp. It's got some attention. So people were interviewing me on that as well. So I'm trying to make a full round of meetings and business while I'm here.
That's really cool. What do you mean by an album for ClickUp? If I'm as the poll, is continuing to flow in. I'd love to hear what that is.
Yeah, look, so Zeb and I, the founder of ClickUp, we always loved music early on, and we even used to manage an artist together when we were in college. And as COVID started, we kind of noticed that our all hands meetings were a little slower and not as fun as it used to be when everyone was in person. So we started making some music and songs for these that kind of talked about ClickUp. And this kind of expanded. We then did it for a feature release, and David Sachs, one of our first investors, just absolutely loved it. And we've kind of continued doing that. And so now I've grown into more, and I had the idea to scale this and to see if it would really work. And we created an album. So I got some really big artists. I got Clever, who's, songs with Justin Bieber, Post Malone. And then we also have some artists that work at ClickUp that are really good musically. So we create a full album. Each song talks about ClickUp, but not too much. We have every genre: country, pop, hip hop. We tried to hit it all. And we have a 21-song album that's doing really well and crossed 1 million streams on Spotify and Apple Music. It's called Workflow by ClickUp. So things that you can listen to with working. We dropped it during our big Level Up conference, so it got a lot of attention.
Wow, that's really cool. That's that's also such a unique and interesting way to get yourself even more out there in a stream that people might not have originally thought of, which is really interesting. Okay, so we're going to close out the poll really quickly with the vast majority of people who've already participated. Now, as we can see, 65% of people have used influencer marketing as part of their PR campaign. Another third haven't, and 5% are other. So again, if you're one of those others, please let us know what that means, because let's see how other people are also doing the work. But before we get started, let's just do a really quickly to recap. This is a webinar, Maximizing Your Impact with Influencer Marketing and PR. I am Eitan Goldstein, and again, we have here today, in case you're just joining us a little bit late, with Chris Cunningham, the head influencer of marketing and founding member of ClickUp. So just a little bit about myself. I'm the communications manager for Propel, and I use the platform every day to get earned media coverage for the company. Before this, I worked at GKPR, one of the premier PR tech firms in Israel, where I represented companies from seed stage to Fortune 100. And before this, I was a senior editor at Ynet News, the English language edition of Israel's largest newspaper. And I'm from the small town of Indianapolis, Indiana. Now, I'm very pleased to have with us today, as I said, Chris Cunningham, who is a key figure and founding member at ClickUp, an integrated productivity platform where he leads the influencer marketing team. Driven by his passion for social media, Chris defines and collaborates with influencers and thought leaders to amplify ClickUp's brand reach. Prior to his current role, Chris was the first sales rep and customer service rep at the company, helping to grow to $20 million in ARR with no outside funding. He also has multifaceted expertise in sales, branding, and influencer engagement, and is all about finding ways to drive the company's growth. Chris, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
This is going to be a great webinar. Really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on just everything from A to Z. And going into with that, just to tell everybody how this is going to be built out, we're going to start with what is influencer marketing? Just a very big crash course on the basics. After that, where do news and traditional media fit in? Followed by, of course, using influencer marketing to amplify your PR, and ending with some ethical considerations around influencer marketing. And of course, at the very end, we'll have time for a quick Q&A. So let's get into it. But of course, before this, just a very quick word about Propel. It's the first PR tool built by PR people for PR people. Our CEO, Zach Cutler, founded in 2019 after running his own agency for 9 years. In his agency years, Zach was always on the lookout for better technology to manage all of his agency's campaigns, journalist relationships, team productivity, and business outcomes. Finding none that suited his needs, he decided to build the first CRM specifically for PR on the market, so he sold his agency and built Propel. Now we're on a mission to democratize and make PR technology accessible for the masses. We support leading brands and agencies like Real Chemistry, Microsoft, and NPR by reimagining earned media. We've launched many first-of-a-kind features for PR workflow, insights, and analytics, and we have the industry's only native Gmail and Outlook email pitch plugins. And on top of all of that, we also have one of the very first AI pitch writer and press release writers, and a AI-driven media list builder, which I use, and it saves me a ton of time. So let's jump right into things. Let's get into the meat of it. Influencer marketing 101. And Chris, I have to ask you, what is influencer marketing? Just first and foremost.
Yeah, I think there's two answers I'd like to give you. There's what everyone thinks influencer marketing is, and what I like to say what it was. And that's when you pay someone and they just hold your product and they talk about it, how it used to be, and really tactful, not very tasteful back in the day. What I think influencer marketing is now, what it's moving towards, is finding thought leaders, especially in tech, right? It's finding those that people learn from, and then getting them to learn with your product and actually use your product, because it's very different. And with just a simple product, you can act like you use it. You can, maybe fake it for social, but with a software, you really can't fake it. You have to show people, you have to utilize it in your day-to-day life and in your business. So what it's becoming is more or less finding different people who align with you, more strategic partnerships. Someone's going to be with your brand for a long time, and it's going to get something out of your brand. So that's where it's going now. And how that looks is, for ClickUp, is I will find someone, I'll see their company and say, hey, look, I see what you're doing. Let me give you a consultant, a trainer, who will show you what your business would look like if you use ClickUp to manage it. If you like it, great, we can talk further. If not, no harm, no foul. And that's kind of how we work it now. If things work out and they're utilizing it, that way they learn how to help their business and they can go talk about it, rather than me try to give them a script or anything like that. I think that's another thing where people go wrong with influencer marketing. So I think you need to build a natural connection, let them get some value of your product, and then let them talk about it on their own.
So, okay. So, that's awesome. And first of all, my first question for you, follow-up question for you would be, how did that change really switch? At first it was the guy, like, I don't, that guy that's holding up the Coke can or the Pepsi can or whatever, and talking about how much they love it, to something that does seem a lot more, coming from the heart. Now, what was that process like, historically, that got us from that just blatant in your face, shoving a product down people's throats to the more subtle, the more heartfelt, and the really the more almost, I would say, truthful explanation of a particular product or service.
I think consumers got us there by ignoring and scrolling so fast and making these ineffective. I used to run very, very large campaigns. I ran some that we used, the Kardashians and things like that. And it's wild to see how something could work if there was a fit. Like Sugar Bear Hair was a campaign that worked really well with them, right? But then another one that tried to run with them was, I think it was like a CBD. I forget the name of it now. It was like something similar to Fit Tea, but and it just completely fell flat. You have to think you spent a lot of money to do that. And so I think more of these campaigns started to fall flat because brands were being lazier, doing what they thought was correct, and just paying, writing a check and saying, hey, like, here's a script, read this script and, create this video. And then people were just ignoring it, not clicking, not scrolling. And so once people lost money on that and brands lost money, I think they realized they needed to get smarter. And then by companies starting to do it properly and it's starting to work really well, other companies, I think, found that. So I think really it's consumers and brands both push to here by being very annoyed with the forced and being lied to. No one wants to be lied to. It's social media. They're there to have some fun or learn. And if you're not helping them with either, they're just going to scroll. So I think people realize they needed to find a way to allow people to have fun, but still learn and help them in the content they're doing. And with different features being added, like, hey, I don't like this ad and things like that, they're forced to now do better.
Right. And again, like, anything that's coming from the person because it's coming from them and not coming from on top or a script is obviously going to be so much more genuine and get the point across so much better, in my opinion. And so it does make sense that it kind of moved over to this direction. Now, you mentioned the Kardashians, the number one influencers in the world. Who are influencers? Is it just these people on TikTok and Instagram? Who would be considered an influencer that a PR person can reach out to?
It's a great question. Look, obviously, though, they are still extremely large influencers, and they have a massive reach. But what people are also learning now is that might not mean that's the best influencer for you, and that might not be the person who gets the most traffic for you. So yeah, I think influencers now is so much more. There's so many more, right? It used to be just those famous people. It used to be just the select ones who were on TV, who were athletes, actors. But now there's so many more type of influencers. There's an influencer in every single niche in space now, because an influencer now is just someone that people watch their content to learn or because they enjoy. So there's copywriting experts, there's PR experts, or influencers, there's marketing influencers. There's something for every single niche, and that's what I think brands are also learning. So it's like they need to reverse engineer and find who their target market is and then who they're learning from. That's what I do. Every month I'm reaching out to people at ClickUp in every single department saying, hey, who are you learning from? Who's on the rise? Who's like the big person in the space, but also who's someone who's up and coming that's starting to pop up in your feed that you're seeing or you really enjoy their content. But they can even be micro influencers with 3,000 followers. If those 3,000 followers are really engaged with you and they trust what you say and they're actually clicking and going to things that you put on your post, a lot of times it does better. And sometimes you feel closer to a micro or a mid-tier influencer because they might comment back to you here and there. Whereas Kim Kardashian is never going to see their comment, right? Like they have millions coming in so quickly. So a lot of times you'll find that those smaller do better, or maybe you need a combination of each because you need a wide reach or you need, brand recognition or something, but you still want those clicks. So you want to mix in both.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And I think that like another question that I would have, just a little bit of a follow-up, is, we're talking about people that are, engaging in posts and things like that. But would you consider, for instance, in this particular world, would someone like a podcaster be considered an influencer? Would someone who has a really popular blog be considered an influencer? Would those also be people to reach out to for this particular campaign strategy?
They're ultimate influencers. Again, anyone who has eyeballs, anyone who has someone listening to them and believing in them is an influencer, and especially podcasts, especially blog writers, especially journalists. They all have people who watch and get excited for their content and learn from their content or get something from their content because they give them, their currency of their attention, which is the most important currency out there. So anyone who has the power to gain that, no matter whether it be on TV, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on a podcast, whether it be on LinkedIn, that's powerful. And it's just on the brand to decide what platform, what type of version of that they want the most.
Right. No, exactly. And there's different types of campaigns that would be specific to different types of platforms that you're going on. And I think that's something that, organizations are still kind of trying to figure out, and PR pros are trying to figure out how to help them. And so, would you be able to talk a little bit about what does it look like today? What are the organizations themselves like? How are they going about it? How are PR firms going about it currently? And, where do you see it going into the future?
Like, you mean how companies go about utilizing
Yeah,
influencer marketing? Yeah,
exactly.
so
Utilizing, reaching out. Yeah.
it's a great question. Here's how most people do it today is a lot of times they'll just hire an agency, right? And I think that's, again, just as everything else is moving, I think that trend is starting to move too. I think people are now hiring inside teams, like we have here, or they're finding someone to kind of run point on that, because again, they really need to understand your brand. Whereas if you hire an agency, it's tougher for them to learn your brand, especially complex brands, like ClickUp that have many different features and many different goals. So I think it's definitely changing now. I think people are going into taking more time, getting to know these people, and even creating their own influencers. You look on LinkedIn, a lot of these people are big influencers from companies, and I think that's kind of where things are going as well, is growing their own internally, because now you have someone you look up to at a company, because you do want to learn. If you want to move up at your company, you want to learn from someone who's at a company that you respect that's done it before. So I think they're starting to one, build teams internally, two, just reach out themselves and start to try to understand influencers, and three, build their own or hire someone who has that following inside their company, so they utilize that reach.
Right. And so, again, like this sounds like a lot about, what, like exactly what we do in PR, except we're looking, historically, we've been looking a lot, for journalists, as opposed to, focusing on influences, which people really do need to start doing a lot more. 100% agree with that. And, so first of all, I wanted to know, how did you yourself get into influencer marketing? How did you find that as like the niche that you knew that you were good in? And then I would like to move on a little bit further into, how to meld the two worlds even better than they already are now.
Yeah. So when I was younger, prior to ClickUp, Zeb and I worked, our ClickUp CEO. We had another company that was in the social media space, and we are really good at growing people on social and helping them get more attention. And Zeb also built a software that allowed you to grow and also schedule your posts and things like that early on. So we had a lot of clients that became influencers. We're helping them become influencers. So I had a huge network in this. And as we were kind of growing, and ClickUp became larger, again, I was our first sales rep, our first customer service rep, which was tough on me, closing the deals, but also having to fix when we had issues and bugs, being a small team, only like 6 or 8 people in the early days. As we grew and started to have a lot of success, I knew that, the company was going to need to find someone who could take us to the next level, and, take us to Series A, Series B, and Series C of funding, that had been there and done it before. And I didn't want to continue to be in sales. I'd done it for so long. I really loved being creative. And I kind of felt that in this space, because at the time, no one was really using influencers. And I felt that they could, and, we would. So as I kind of wanted to transition into marketing, I more or less was doing everything. I was just like considered a strategist. And as we started to grow, I realized I like that part the most. I like getting our content created. I like speaking on stage, and I like getting people to create content for us. And we noticed it working really well for our ads. Like ads that we're working with influencers, we're converting better than a lot of these high polished, ads that we were paying with a camera that we were just shooting on a phone with an influencer. We're performing higher. We noticed that our social media was doing better with getting this type of content. I had so much fun getting to know these people and building this content. I already had the connections. So that's when I kind of almost, I guess, created my own role of what I love doing. And what was the second part of your question? That was the first part. I think you asked me.
No, that, I mean, that you basically covered both of them, because what it sounds like is that, not only did you find your niche, but you took every single aspect, and, with the startup lifestyle, of course, where you're doing a little bit of everything all at once. You were able to meld all of that, it sounds like, together to really come up with this incredible strategy that ended up working, saving the company money, and getting your name out there. And that's a really inspiring thing to hear, I think. And just looking how to think a little bit differently and a little bit outside of the box really, push, not to push you, but help to propel you forward to where you are today, and speaking with us here today, which is awesome. So, a little bit though more about that is, where you're talking about talking instead of, how your ROI was so much higher to you, speaking and using influencers compared to ads at the very beginning. And of course, that's something that we in PR are always trying to figure out, how do we show our ROI? Luckily with Propel, we do have the ability to show business outcomes, but, a lot of times it's still really difficult to show X dollar amount for, for a news mention. And so, this is why I wanted to kind of get into, where social media marketing, where influencer marketing and traditional earned media fits in together and how they can merge. And I think that one of the first questions to, really ask about this is because there are a lot of people in PR that have some concerns about influencer marketing. They're concerned that perhaps the influencer isn't held to the same standard, perhaps legally. For instance, here in Israel, there are legal standards for the news that they have to give both sides of the story, and B, they have to be truthful. There is something like that in the United States with libel laws and throughout the world, and influencers aren't necessarily beholden to this. So when when a PR person is trying to get their organization's message out, they might be a little bit hesitant to use influencers because at the end of the day, who is this person? Who is this like guy or girl who's standing in front of the camera with 150,000 views? Are they truthful? I mean, people like them, but that doesn't necessarily prove that their trustworthiness. So when it comes to that, how do you move or bridge that gap between the trust that the PR person or even the organization has with the influencer, and getting that, getting them to, ensure that what they're talking about regarding the product is in fact truthful and that they are a truthful, trustworthy source?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that, is definitely to be careful of. That's why when you choose an influencer, I mean, they're attached to your brand, right? And if they do anything off the wall, your brand is attached to that. So I think the first step is one, is being so careful who you choose, because you're right, there are so many people who post, and luckily choosing not your consistent influencers, because they get, called out and canceled, or whatever you want to call it. But there's a lot of people who just start posting things that are not true at all just for views, because they know it's going to drive fear or some emotion that people, really that drives more clicks. So there's a lot of influencers who do that. I am very, very careful to vet, not one, just who I work with, but then two, they still have to submit. Like, they certainly let me know what they're posting. We need to check, is this actually true? Is this something that's actually going on? Does this make sense? Is this adding value? That's a huge part. And I think, I think another thing is you have to really, really, really be careful on how far they're going with things, what lane they're taking on it, right? Is it the same stance? Like, I need to make sure when I'm working with someone that their views are really, or their values align with us, because they might say something that's completely different from us. And, I might have a problem with that, and that might not really match with our brand. So that's something that we really need to stay on top of. And sorry, I'm gonna just turn this light on real quick. It looks like it went off.
No worries. So we'll just wait for you to come back.
I'm good.
Awesome. So, what are some of the ways that you vet these influencers before you reach out to them?
Yeah, one, obviously the content. We just go through and watch from a while back. Two, you definitely want to, run checks on them. We have programs to make sure they're not using fake followers and such, because someone could just rise to the top and act like they're an amazing person and have all these accolades with, with cheating or buying followers there. So you never want that. But it's pretty easy to catch with software, and really just a spot check. You can look at the comments and kind of tell if someone's faking along there, if numbers and stuff don't line up. And I mean, I talked to them for a while. Like, most of these influencers that are the majority that work at ClickUp, I am friends with. They have my cell phone, they can call me. And that's why I try to make content and stuff myself. I want them to relate. I want them to feel that we're in this together, because if they're more successful, I'm more successful. That's why I try to create content, so I understand what they go through, what it's like, how hard it is, how time consuming it is, how to drive a point home, what works better, what doesn't. So I really get to know them. I take time with them. Most of them usually come out to the office at some point. We'll take them to dinners, meet more of the team. If they're going to represent our brand, we want to really know them, because it is a big commitment. And one thing that I should have mentioned earlier in influencer marketing is a trend that's going away is like these one and done posts. You don't want to do that anymore. Like, people need to see something more than one time. Everyone has a rule of 7, and the numbers probably even growing. You need to be something more consistent. So when I'm hiring an influencer, it's for the long run. We're working with them monthly, and they have certain obligations, but they become part of the brand. So a lot of times they're sharing stuff just on their own, or they're engaging with other ClickUp stuff on their own because they're becoming part of the family and we're adding value to them as well.
Yeah, definitely. So that almost sounds like, I would assume that you're getting them on a freelancer basis. Like, what would that relationship look like just for someone who's trying to perhaps write a contract with them to get them
Sure,
on board?
everyone's different, right? Some you might be getting to create content and post on their page, and you might want them to do 2 posts a month or something. Others might just be avid users of the platform, and maybe they just want to use your platform free, or maybe they want, some eyeballs off your platform so you can trade things like that. Others could be more freelance. Others you might be having making UGC content that you use for ads or that you use for your brand. I think you really want to learn what everyone has a different type of value. Maybe if you want someone's audience, you want them posting on their page. If you just love someone's content, they're an up and comer, but you like what they create, but you want them to create for your page, and that's UGC, and that costs less. Maybe you want to mix in both and you want all the above. Maybe you want to run ads on their content, then you need to make sure you put that in the contract. You need to pay them for that, and you need to have usage rights, and you need to put how long you do that. So many people skip all of that, and I'm pretty sure it is illegal. So it's definitely smart to really understand your contracts, have your legal involved. It's a huge thing, and understand what you can pay for post and what you can't. So I think that's, and what things they need to, just happen to be into on their own to post. So all these things are very important to make sure because, FCC, everyone is cracking down on this. There's a lot of companies who've gotten in trouble, especially with these, these different coins and things that come up. The big influencers would post and just, jump on things like that are hurting the market. So I think really building that trust, having someone that you work with consistently that actually uses your brand, is how we're going to continue in this space, as we should.
Oh, this is amazing. This is great. I mean, I think that these little, it's very detailed, but it's important to know in order to be able to do influencer marketing correctly, just so so you could have your own by yourself an idea of what you want, when you're looking at building a contract out with them, how to get them in now, and what you're looking for from them. And it helps to really bring the direction, the mutual direction together. And so, going off of that, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about how influencer marketing, beyond the business side of it, how PR can really work with influencer marketing. Because, one thing that you mentioned is sometimes, you might have to pay them. PR's big bread and butter is that it's earned media. Now, of course, like if you're dealing with like Redfin or someone, not Redfin, but Red Hat, or these various other media conglomerates, yeah, sometimes you do have to pay a couple tens of thousands of dollars and you'll get something in. But by and large, PR is earned media, PR is free media. So by and large, does influencer marketing cost money? Is it free? How do you get it for free? When would you want to go with the paid route? Similar to getting into ZDNet consistently.
Yeah. Look, influencer marketing mostly is pay to play. Some you set up as affiliates, right? And they get paid for traffic they drive. Others you trade maybe access to your platform, or being able to being showcased on your platform or helping them grow. So you do need to be careful if you're wanting influencer marketing to meet PR. Now, social media and PR should always meet. If your social media team and your PR teams aren't together, that's a huge mistake, because your PR is already doing so much research that your social should be posting. So I think, again, you have to be very careful, because you cannot, from what I understand, what I've been told by my PR team, we cannot have something that we post and I say, hey, influencer, here's X amount of money to go post this. Like that's not okay. Now, if someone who uses ClickUp that we work with wants to weigh in or things like that, but we're not paying them, we just, ask them, that seems to be okay if we want to ever work with them on that way. But mostly PR and influencer marketing, it's more or less, a lot of times our influencers will see something that comes out about ClickUp and they're happy to share. They're proud of the brand. They're an ambassador. They work with us. So a lot of times on their own, if they want to, that's awesome. But we're never going to go directly say, hey, you need to post this and put this out there. But if they do, if they work with us consistently and they really like something they see, it coincides with what they've done, that's awesome. And that's where the two really come hand in hand.
Now, you very briefly right now mentioned the word ambassador, and there are brand ambassadors. What would be, for instance, what, if any, it would be the difference between a brand ambassador and an influencer who you're either working with or has agreed to, not only promote your product, but to write good reviews, et cetera, about it?
Yeah, look, I don't know. Every company uses these terms different, right? But for us, essentially, an ambassador is someone who is just a big fan of the product. for us, we give them a check on ClickUp. We verify them. We don't pay them anything. We give them a check, and we definitely hook them up with certain cool things, access to events, early news about features, things like that. So that's an ambassador. An influencer is typically someone that we are contracting, that we pay for the most part, unless it's someone again that we're trading. I guess you could almost still consider them an ambassador. But yeah, influencers more paid. Ambassadors is someone who loves the brand and they want to support.
Interesting. Okay, awesome. Like, because that's something that I know that my own self, my own work life, I just at times has been a little bit confusing, but it's nice to hear that cleared up. So that also leads us to the next section, which is using influencer marketing to amplify your PR. So my next question for you then, is what are some PR strategies that PR pros can use to just reach out to influencers? How do you even begin that? How do you take that first step to reaching out to somebody to try to get them on board via a brand ambassador or even or an influencer?
Yeah, I think that's why I try to create my own content and almost become my own. So I'm one of them. And when I reach out, it's kind of easy. But for the way our PR team works, luckily for PR, like it's an influencer, right? They love to be on the news. They love to feel important. They love a spotlight. So you have something to give them. So you have, something to reach out about. So I think a lot of it is you can really just cold DM. People don't realize how easy it is to DM. People have these, link trees and such where they have their email. So it's quite easy to get in contact with them. Now, if it's a larger one, you probably need to find someone who represents them. But it's so much easier now than ever. Like there's been some who I can't get a hold of. And what I typically do is I wait until most all influencers love to watch the beginning after they post in the comments. So if there's someone I haven't been able to get a hold of, but I am a really big fan of, and I know that I would be impactful to my brand, I'm not going to let it go without getting in touch with them. What I'll do is I'll set notifications when they post, and I'll see them post, and I'll kind of quickly comment, like, hey, I'm very personal about it. And like, I send them just a really deep message, and it'll be as a comment, like, hey, I know you're insanely busy, but what you do in this space is just unreal. Like the way that I'll give them a real genuine compliment, why I want to get in touch. I would really love to, tap in and work with you and see if we could add value to your audience, via ClickUp. And that's worked so many times for me. It's got me in touch. Just being humble and being like a genuine compliment, not just some BS like, oh, you're the best. Like really telling them exact reasons, these 3 reasons why you are just an up and comer or a massive thought leader in a space that we respect here. Would love to chat with you. Things like that. Or maybe I even try to add value for them first. Maybe I create something for them that I think they can use and post. I've done that many a times. Like, hey, this is a hot topic in social right now that's really relevant to your audience. I built this for you. Feel free to post it. And then they'll get in contact. So just like anyone important, don't just reach out, maybe add some value first.
Right. And that's so interesting that you say that, because that's something that we're pushing here at Propel and that I've been, doing for my PR career is the exact same thing, is except for journalists. We'll push out maybe, some data that they could use. We'll, give them a heartfelt something that was sorry.
Just a little stat, something different. Don't just not a hey generic message.
Exactly. Something that's, it's not mass produced pitch that's getting sent to everybody. I mentioned this a lot on the webinars, but I used to be the senior editor of Israel's largest newspaper's English language edition. And, if I knew that something was coming to me, that it was just completely generic, that this was obviously sent to another 1,000 people, I'm not going to respond to it. But if it's something that I was actionable, that I could use, something that clearly this person knows what I cover, knows what I do, and understands who I am as a human being, then yeah, I'm going to cover their story. And I found that to work as well in PR. And so it's really the same thing for influencer marketing, except that instead of emailing somebody at New York Times or whatever, you're really just you're sending it to their DMs in either Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or something. And so that we could already take those skills that we already have and use that in getting in touch with these influencers. Now, this has obviously worked very well for you. And in fact, you've gone viral a few times. And so the first thing that I wanted to ask is, going viral is, to me at least, seems to be very difficult to do, seems to be a one-off, seems to be a lot more difficult than getting a whole lot of hits from a normal PR campaign where you're emailing a lot of different journalists. So I was wondering, first of all, is going viral, what do you feel about having the objective of a particular campaign to go viral? And what were some of the ways that you found worked the best in your own life to go a little bit viral?
I think, look, secretly, everyone wants every campaign to go viral, right? But the biggest mistake you can make is to try to make every campaign go viral. I think like it's a process. It's something you build up to, and it's not something you fully predict. I mean, there's little things you can do, and obviously little things, games you can play to increase your chances. But what I've learned about going viral is there's this book called Contagious. It is my favorite marketing book, and in there it tells you like the kind of breaks down the formula of going viral. And the reason why something goes viral is people want to share it. Why do people want to share anything? One, either it makes them feel cool, like they're in the know, it makes them feel as they share it, like this is something cool to add to the conversation. People are gonna think I'm cooler after I share this. Or two, it just stands out. It just stands out in such a way that people need to know it affects their life. It drives some type of emotion. It may be world changing or something like that. These are the things that will very quickly make something viral. But if you try to make every piece of your content viral, you're never really going to connect with your users. So I think what you do is, if you do want to go viral, you always focus on connecting with your users first. What helps them, what they comment on, what adds value to them. You should always be auditing everything you do. Every week you should look at, okay, we posted these 4 things. This one did amazing. These 2 didn't. Why? Always ask these questions. This one didn't do well because it was too high level, right? It didn't make sense. Or maybe this one performed really well because we connected with our brand in a genuine way. We didn't overdo it. We didn't just take a new spin and turn it around like a lot of people do on content and put it our way. We actually spoke to our users and we actually connected with them. So I think one, like everyone, of course I want to go viral every. I mean, I do. I'd be lying to you if I said I don't. But I'm also well aware that I'm not trying to go viral every time. I'm trying to help my users. When I'm really genuinely doing that, I typically do find a way to go viral on its own. So I think it's shifting that mindset of putting that pressure every time. Sure, we all have KPIs. Sure, we have things we want to hit. We want the most attention we can get and the most likes we can get. And that's why people open up and pull back up their notifications and swipe up. How many more gave me a like? How many more commented? How many people this resonate with? But at the end of the day, you have to really just shift your brain from that. That took me time as well. And now I'm more focused on how I'm helping my customers, how I'm helping them learn more, and how I'm just helping the world of productivity in general and helping people do better at work.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, that's incredible. And I think that's really important to note is that, the goal shouldn't be to go to viral necessarily. Of course, that's like the unstated goal, right? But it should be to really resonate and connect with the people that you're trying to reach out to. And that could be anyone from, the not only your target audience, but also, if you're a PR person, the journalists that you're talking to, the influencers that you're talking to, that you're trying to get on board, the potential brand ambassadors. It seems to all come back down to one word, and that's genuineness or being genuine. So excuse me. And so I think that's what it really what we keep circling back to is the more genuine you are, the more positively you're going to be portrayed and perceived. People aren't dumb; they can see when someone is being disingenuous. And so when you're talking about your product or when you're promoting your organization, and when you're getting the influencers to help you or the brand ambassadors to help you promote your organization, the more genuine you yourself are, the more comfortable they'll feel, and the more they'll be able to be genuine and therefore deliver a better, I wouldn't want to say product, but deliver really get that audience engagement up. Because the more, of course, just truly being genuine. So I think based on that, like, what were some of can you give a couple of examples where you went viral or ClickUps went viral?
Yeah, we've got a few. So one that we did that did really well was obviously our Super Bowl commercial was a big one, and that's something that we did kind of work with everyone on with PR. The entire team came on board, and sometimes it's adding in a little incentive as a reason being. So with our Super Bowl commercial, we wanted a lot of people to comment on it and to speak about it, and to kind of get a feel for what they actually really liked about it. So we're like, best comment about our commercial wins a trip to Hawaii, right? And we put that up, and that just went insane. One, because obviously the incentive didn't hurt, but I think the commercial was really funny. It was definitely quite unique. It was going back to like the days of the Declaration of Independence, and they lost it. And it's showing how if they would have had this on a ClickUp doc, this would have never happened. So we had that right there. Another thing that's gone viral is more on my personal page, but for ClickUp, and we've done this on ClickUp actually as well and others, but is, this is where PR and influence marketing, everything can come together. So I realized quite quickly that ChatGPT was blowing up. Is going to be all the rave on social. So with that happening, I saw most people were building these little docs that were doing well, saying, hey, here's 10 prompts that you can use to learn how to use ChatGPT better. So I thought, okay, the way you win is by giving immense value, way more than they give, and making it way better. So I took about a day and a half, worked with a team, and built almost 200 prompts of every single niche in marketing, period, including PR, including marketing, blog writing, everything. And I made these really good prompts. I worked with an expert and made these incredible prompts, and just a doc that was insanely helpful at a time when people were really just trying to figure out what ChatGPT was and how to navigate it. And I put it in a ClickUp doc so they could learn from it there. And then I just posted that, and that went insanely viral. I think I had the second most viewed tweet of the day behind, Elon, who for some reason, definitely does get the most, maybe him owning the platform. But yeah, so I had it, had like 6 million views, and did insanely well. So I think anytime the formula that I've seen is either you have some incentive or you're just giving some piece of value that is really helpful that people would you typically pay for, and they don't have to. All they need to do is comment and share something to get it. And that's kind of been a couple big ones for us. And we've done different versions of that with different other resources. And that's kind of one of our really big plays that helps us get a lot of attention while still helping people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that I'm sure that the people that are, listening in and that are going to be watching this on YouTube later, are thinking, what are some of the things that I personally can be doing today in order to like start reaching out and in order to really bring influencer marketing into the fold and into my day-to-day PR strategy. Do you have any insights as to that?
Yeah, again, I think it's definitely sad we can't, not sad, it's probably we can't pay them to do it. But I think maybe bringing them on. I don't know if you find like everyone thinks as influencers are just people making videos, but a lot of mine are incredible writers, right? Like Zoe Hart is someone I work with. She's an incredible writer. So I think having her kind of write certain things that are going on that we see. For example, we created this thing called the Punch Up Report. And the Punch Up Report is where we went and just surveyed tons of CEOs and C-suite level people at strong tech companies, asking them where they see things going and what they think are happening. And then I'll go ask Zoe, hey, what do you think of this report? Do an analysis and share it with your friends and let them know they can get the full thing here. That is a really cool way. So I think finding cool information and having someone whose audience would really benefit, sharing it out, and then getting more people to download the report is a great way. Maybe having them featured on your newsletter, someone new, a breath of fresh air with new perspectives on a big topic is a great way. But as for how you get in touch with them, I think you hit them up and say, hey, look, you have a great writing style, or you seem to have knowledge on a topic that we're in. We think of you as a thought leader. We think that people look up to you, and our audience would love to hear from you as well. I don't know how I keep this going. We started back on as well, but I think that's a great way to start.
Don't worry, you're well lit up in any case. So you're looking at all right.
We're good.
It's all right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's that's really interesting. I think that a lot of people again are used to old school PR, if you will, are a little bit hesitant. Like, oh, I feel awful that I have to get this freelancer and not pay them. But I think that there are enough people that are in the space that do appreciate the product or appreciate the service and would be happy to lend their services and again, as you said, provide a breath of fresh air to your already built-in own media audience. Exactly. And I think that's something huge. Yeah, so let's move on a little bit and just talk a little bit more about ethical considerations around influencer marketing. We touched a little bit upon this earlier on in the webinar, but we wanted to talk about just something that just about a little bit more about being like authentic and genuine. You don't want to manipulate how this PR person, or sorry, how this influencer or how this brand ambassador is going to be utilizing your message. And so, what are some of the important things that a PR person themselves, when they're assuming that they're the point of contact with this influencer or brand ambassador, should take into consideration when they're dealing with them? What should and what should the PR person know about the influencer, about how they operate, so that that bridge can be crossed and that the relationship can be even better?
Yeah, I think one, they should do their research just as we do. Like, is this person typically telling the truth and helping their users, or is this person dangerous because they're just trying to get views? I mean, that is very well out there, and it is dangerous because some people do not check and will just say anything to get attention and scare people or whatever else. I think first, do your research, but second, also flipping sides, be fair to them. Just because the PR team wrote something doesn't mean the influencer has to feel the same way. If you're asking them to speak on their side of it, make sure that they do, make sure you're not telling them one way of how to speak, like allow them to be able to speak the way they want. And I think I learned this from you when we were speaking earlier. Make sure you can tell both sides of the story. Like, just because one thing looks one way or is leaning one way, I think someone should have a chance to understand the other side, because we never really know. People should be able to make their own calls for that, rather than just speaking one-sided, because that is what is dangerous, and can move people away from wanting to read when certain journalists or certain people go too far one side without hearing the other side at all. Even if the other side is incorrect, you still have to listen, and I guess be open to that.
Yeah, definitely. I think those are some great tips. And just we're gonna start wrapping things up here a little bit. And we want to know, what are some of your PR influencer tips for the road? What should us as PR people be considerate of as we begin our journeys, if we haven't already, towards reaching out, utilizing influencers and brand ambassadors? And where are they really coming from? How should we think about where they're coming from, so that we can understand how to do our jobs better, make their lives easier, and therefore more likely to not only work with us but enjoy the partnership?
Yeah. So look, I mean, even though we're just coming off of that topic, I think a big one is just make complete sure that your brand values align. Like, make sure that your core values are what you're trying to do and what this influencer does as well, because it can get messy down the road. I think so many people just get excited to get a certain reach that they don't think about that, and they skip that part. And I've seen it really backfire on brands as a whole, as we've seen it happen many times. So make sure the values align, not only with your company, but also your audience. It might be some aligns with you, but your audience might really disagree. And it could be dangerous. You could lose clients from that, rather than do the opposite of what you're really looking to do. I think the next one is really have clear communication. Get to know this person, take your time, and make sure you understand what you're trying to do, what you're trying to work on. Set realistic goals and expectations. Really do a good job of helping them understand what you're trying to do. Because if you don't do that, they might think they understand on their own, or have their own perspective that might be quite different from you. So communication, obviously. And then the third, I would say, is set really cool KPIs and metrics, and check on how these things perform, because not everything you do in influencer marketing is going to be perfect. That's okay. It's like that in everything in marketing. Not every ad hits perfectly. Not every campaign sets perfectly. But I think if you analyze weekly and you truly take time to analyze, not just, oh, this got lower likes, like ask the questions: why, who engaged with this, who didn't like this, where did the negative feedback come from? So really look, setting proper KPIs that can allow you to know. And these KPIs can be different from just an impression or something. Like, how many views are we getting? That's how much time people are giving you. How much weekly views are we getting? How many clicks are we getting on this? How many people are coming to our site? Because that's what really matters at the end of the day. How many people are, giving us a chance to buy and become a customer from this work? And then even so much as, are people signing up? Are they starting to pay us? That's how you can measure how valuable your content is by the actions and the time and these resources that they give you, whether it be just something small as a watch or giving up their email for a newsletter. These are all things they're giving you because they appreciate what you're doing. It shows how much they like you. So, and can always continue to find ways to improve that, because the more people like you, the more eyeballs you're getting, the more people respect you, the more you're winning in this space.
Amazing. Oh, I think that those are amazing tips, and I think that we should all be following them as we continue on our paths with influencers and other brand ambassadors. So now we're going to turn it over to questions. So some questions from the audience. We already have one. So this is about getting back to trust. As influencers get paid directly by the client to post content for a campaign, do you see any credibility issues in using them?
I mean, look, if it was someone who's not using the product and is not telling the truth, and you're, guiding them to say something, I definitely think that there could be. But when it comes to you having someone that you work with, and you're covering their time, the video they create, all the stuff they're doing, I don't see any issues there, as long as you're being proper, and again being true, and they're truly using your product, which is why we go about having them train, and why we make sure they're actually getting something from the product, and we have them speak about what they're getting better. We don't write scripts, we don't do anything like that. So I think there definitely can be, and I'm sure there is. And I think that the FTC is really, I think it's FTC is really cracking down on that, which I'm glad to see, because it does ruin the space for those like us who are truly trying to work with people who we want to get a lot out of our product, and share the same to their audience as well. That can get the same value back.
All right, amazing. Now we have another question. How much does this cost? Now, from, I mean, my experience, and I'm sure a lot of other PR people's experience, let's say you're trying to get into, having a regular piece in, let's say, ZDNet. You usually would have to go to their media conglomerate, and you speak with a salesperson, and they'll give you just like different tranches, different tiers that you could pay, and then you'll get X amount of impressions, you'll get X amount of articles that you are automatically going to be had, or that are automatically going to go up on your behalf per month, etc. So I was wondering, is there something like that with influencers? How does payment, or even and payment can be either monetary, it could be giving access to the product. How does that work, and are there any standards so that when people do go to these people, that they could understand, okay, is this like should I start negotiating with them? Is this a fair price, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's obviously different per platform, different per size of influencer. It really goes by their audience, right? So someone who's smaller, and just loves the brand, maybe would just want free access to ClickUp, and we'd love to give them that if they're sharing and creating content that our users can get value of from learning how to use ClickUp. If it's someone massive with a huge following, they would obviously cost more, and you're basically paying for advertising on their channel or on their space. Like, it might be a big podcast or a big YouTube channel. They're going to be more expensive, and they're dedicating time. They're treating themselves as almost like a TV or news network, and they're giving you time and that into their audience to run an advertised campaign. But typically it's on. I mean, it's very hard to guarantee clicks and stuff. It would be easier, but a lot of times it's more just on what you're looking to get from them, like whether it's a 2 minute part of an ad and inside of their YouTube video, or maybe it's a full a video they create for you that you GC that you can post on your YouTube, and your followers can learn from. It's just a wide range, but it really goes off mostly their following of their community and their engagement, and how valuable you see them.
Okay, awesome. So it sounds like, we have another question of what type of a budget should a company set aside per influencer campaign? And it sounds like, that the answer is very fluid. And again, it comes back to what you were saying, that it really depends on what you're looking for. It depends on who you're reaching out to. And it really depends on, the size. If someone's going to be, if they're an influencer in, let's say, woodworking, and they have 10,000 followers, they're probably going to cost a little bit less than the Kardashians, who want a lot more. So that would make sense there. Now something that I think would be really interesting to hear is, and of course only if you're comfortable, we all make mistakes. Would you be willing to talk about a mistake, not necessarily something that you did, but something that you heard someone else did, of course, when reaching out to influencers, as a kind of like a don't do this, this is not the way to go about it? And then if you would like to, as well as a corollary to that, also talk about a time where you heard about a bad thing or not a bad thing, but a bad, I guess you could say, relationship that coming from the influencer to the PR person or the person managing the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've seen many where someone works with an influencer and they do something in their outside life that doesn't come together. That's happened time and time. I mean, all the way from Logan Paul's big incident. There's all kind of big things where brands will drop, where they get in trouble. There's probably people who have Ja Morant, big NBA player, who keeps getting in trouble and for some reason pulling guns on social media. It's again why you have to really take time and be careful. Those have happened time and time again. I've seen times where someone just goes off on some kind of rant, and maybe even will someone bring the brand up. Luckily, I've been pretty knock on wood. I've been pretty blessed there, but I mean, I've seen it happen to those in our space and colleagues, people that I know from different events and things like that, where they've had a really bad, experience with influencers. I've seen people rush, not do their research and just bring someone in that they had no idea what kind of past they had, no idea some things they've done, and they lose a lot of customers because of it. They really can lose some of their major customers because when you associate with someone, if there's someone that's putting things out there that a lot of people don't agree with, that people will leave your brand. They will go to another one if they think you're aligning with someone that their values don't.
Yeah, definitely. And
risky.
Sorry.
So that is, that's a big risk you play.
Oh, definitely. And so, so I think that a lot of this, we were kind of assuming that, the person reaching out always knows what they're doing. And as we know, the only thing that's certain in life is death and taxes. So what are some of the things that, we as not only PR people, but as the people that are managing a relationship, when we're first reaching out, or even when we have some sort of relationship, what are some of the things that should be avoided that perhaps from a PR perspective would make sense, but in influencer, like in the world of influencing and dealing with them, is a complete and absolute no-go?
I think if it's coming from something with the news and stuff, I think you definitely want to make sure you have checks and balances on that post. So don't just give them free reign. Obviously give them free reign for scripting and things like that, but make sure you give it a pass, a look over before, because they might have found something that is completely off, that makes no sense, or that is, might get a lot of views, but isn't true news. They might pick a side on something that you don't want to pick a side on, that could, look bad for your brand as well. So I think the number one just is make sure you check everything, like be in constant communication with them. Don't just let them run and speak about your brand and say anything, because your brand is everything. You really have to work very hard to build trust with all your customers and your followers, and it can go very quickly with just one of these mistakes. So it is not worth being lazy. It is not worth taking a shortcut, or it's not worth paying someone who may not be fully trustworthy to go get something that do a lot of views. It's not worth the shortcuts ever.
Definitely. That's something you could take for all of life. The shortcut usually leads you to somewhere not great. So anyway, Chris, that's everything that we have for today. Thank you again so much for coming on, for speaking with us. And, if you have anything you'd like to promote, this would be a fantastic time to promote it, to talk about it.
I'm not paid to totally say this, but yeah, ClickUp is, we would love for you to check out ClickUp if you need some new way to manage all your tasks, docs, goals, and your work. We put it all in one place, make it easy to use. And I'm just at Cunningham on most socials. So thank you all for the time. If you have any questions for influencer marketing, I'm more than happy to help. I've done it for some time, and I'd love to save you any hassle on that. So let me know.
Amazing, beautiful. And as always, I'm Eitan Goldstein for Propel, the communications manager. My email is up on the screen right here. And if anyone has any PR related questions, influencer related questions, or just want to tell me, your thoughts about today's webinar or any other webinar, feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to talk to you as well. Well, everyone, thank you so much. Depending on where you are in the world, have a great evening, great afternoon, or great morning. Goodbye, everyone, and see you next time. Thank you again, Chris.
Bye.
Bye.